Welcome, everybody. Short notice once again, so most of you are probably watching this on playback, replay. Cheers. Welcome, everybody, to Mark Bajerski YouTube Live here in the Academy. We are round about, I think, about 33, 34, 35 degrees. It's been a warm one today, and it's very challenging to get through the day in this kind of heat, especially when you're in a room like this and no air conditioning. I don't particularly like air conditioning, so I have fans around me. So you might hear some noise because it really is hot. Today is a kind of follow-up from the other day when I was on sheep farm, and I thought of maybe following through with some, I guess, synchronicities that are written in my books. Here's one of them called Seeing the Invisible. I don't talk about it often enough, and I should do, because it's a really, really great read. There's some wonderful short stories in there, true stories. So I thought about maybe just relaying some of them stories as if I'm doing a book launch. So I wrote a few things down beforehand. One, I've kind of disappointed in a certain tennis player. I don't know what it is. I think we tend to look at people as if it's me, that's me, and we relate to people, and then we believe it's me, you know. And thinking about it, the fact that he didn't have a jab and made a decision not to have a jab was absolutely right, and it was the same decision that I made. And it's a really good point. Just because somebody makes a decision doesn't mean it's the decision that you made. There might be completely different scenarios. So, and I've come to realize that now. Why is that? Well, if the scenario that I foresaw and believed, which I now don't and realize I was wrong, was that a tennis player who became world champion was on our side. Being on our side, meaning that, he realized that the system is wrong. It's not right, and there's something at play, and we're cheering him on, saying, "Good for you, good for you. Don't compete. Stand for your principles." So when I caught a glimpse, I don't watch TV, and I certainly don't watch. When as a kid, I used to watch sports, but not anymore. Too busy doing other things. But of course, all the clips went viral of the opening ceremony of France and the satanic ritual which was taking place. I'm like, well, isn't there a number one world champion tennis player playing there? And surely now he's going to jump up and say, I'm not participating in this satanic show. I'm not being part of this. And I really felt let down, and that's my own fault, because you see, the fact that he didn't take the needle is because he didn't want to get poisoned, and that's it. He didn't want to get sick. Not because he wanted to tell the world not to take it. He just said, I'm not taking it. Whereas when I said I'm not taking it, I was saying it to the world, don't take it, guys. And I fooled myself believing he was saying the same thing, but he wasn't. Not at all. Because if I was him now and I watched the opening ceremony, I would have just stood up, walked out and said, this is a disgrace. And I know that through my friends and people that I know who know him personally, he's very much an Orthodox Christian, so is all his family. So you would play for a piece of metal rather than your principles. And yet you wouldn't play 4 years ago because of your health. So it's health because I'm selfish, and I'm playing for a medal because I'm selfish. Instead of getting up and saying to the world, this is an abuse. This is satanic in nature. This is disgusting. But no, the guy's still playing. So disappointed is definitely the word. Very disappointed. And to be fair, a lot of people pointed it out to me, and I said, well, until I see differently. I see him as a lovely guy, and I believed wholeheartedly that he stood up for all of us when he said he wasn't taking the injection. But now I know it wasn't true. He was standing up for just himself. And some people are just selfish that way. And he probably saw everything on the opening ceremony, and he had a choice and a chance to be the person that I thought he should have been. So very disappointed, very. But by the by, do you know, I've just had a thought. Let's play a little lovely, happy game, lighten the load a little bit. If you don't mind, only ask once, right? Until it's been asked. So I want you to everybody just close your eyes for a moment. Just close your eyes. Okay, just for me, just close your eyes. I want you to imagine yourself in a room, and the room is pure white. The seat that you're sat in is white, and you're just sat in this room, and it's vibrating at a beautiful candlelight energy. And there's something flying around in the room, and you can't see it because it's flying that fast. But I want you to try and slow it down, because it's 2 numbers, or it could be 3 numbers. And I want you to just visualize and see those numbers. And as soon as you've seen either 2 numbers or 3 numbers, put them together and then type them on the screen. Now, I'm not going to be able to do everybody for a certain reason, but just so you know, the message that you're going to get now is synchronicity. So not everybody's going to get a message, okay? So if you look at the screen, your message, look, should match up. So the first person is on the screen and the message should come up. There's your message. Just check your screen and see if it's you, because your message will be coming up in a second. We have 77. There's your message, 77, on the screen. Now, if you've received the same number, then that's your number and you can read your message. So the next is 108. Mm. Mm. Number 36, the choice you make, your message today is just do one more. 16. There you go. So little messages are a wonderful thing, and that's really what I want to talk to you about today. Messages, messages that come to us via different forms, and one of my favorite forms is of Mother Nature. And I don't know if any of you guys have ever had, I know it's going to sound a bit crazy, but has any of you guys ever had a plant that you started watering, you got it bought and you looked after it and you started watering it? Any of you ever felt a feeling of compassion and almost like a father or a mother who's wanting to protect and take care of their baby? You ever named a flower or a plant? Have you ever planted a tree and seen it as your child, as your baby? So maybe you haven't, but maybe you've felt a connection, and maybe you haven't, and maybe the connection was a little bit negative. So maybe you're not good with plants. Like I'm not good with plants and flowers. I try, but I just don't have that gift. So when a flower, a plant dies, I kind of feel as if I've let it down. I feel like I've let it down, or I've let myself down. So that's why I don't really buy flowers and plants, because I know my gifts, and I know what I'm not good at. And I've always, no matter how hard I've tried, I've not been brilliant at taking care of flowers and plants and trees. So I leave that to the experts. But the point being, the simple point is, you know, it's like there's something with Mother Nature. I'm happy to sit by a tree and I receive downloads. Not only do I receive downloads, but I get constant grounding when I'm by a tree. When I'm in Mother Nature, I'm grounded very quickly. That is the most powerful grounding ritual you can do. You can use, obviously, you can use crystals if you live on the top floor of a house, and you can meditate. Meditate to ground is fantastic. Breathing techniques, again, fantastic. Breathing in a way which isn't too heavy. It's normally, you know, I normally do the 3 in, hold, and 3 out, and then hold. So when I'm grounding, I'll do 1, and it's a long breathe in 1, and I'll breathe in for about 10 seconds, and I'll hold for 10 seconds, and then breathe out for 10 or 20 seconds, and that's my grounding. So I find it's easier for me to ground with long breath and long exhale, and longer holding the breath at the 2 points. So the reason why I say this is because there's been many a time when I've communicated to trees and to flowers, and there's this a double-edged sword for me, and that is that I know a flower is alive when it's in Mother Nature, and when the flowers are in, let's say, any of the florists, then their energy is not quite the same. They're in water. They're kept kind of alive, but it's not 100% the same. But you can read flowers. You can read them. I like to read flowers when I'm in nature, and if I'm with somebody, we used to sit down together. I used to say to groups, if anybody sees a flower that they feel drawn to, point to it and let me know. So we used to go for walks up into the mountains, and it might be just a little single flower on its own, and it might be a purple flower, no leaves, no petals, just a single, like almost like a dot, or because everything's fallen off it. Or it could be one which is blossoming, and there's 3 or 4 of them all together. But the point being is I could get a message. And you might say to yourself, well, was that message coming from a psychic place, or were you attuning to the flower? Were you getting information from the flower? And it's a fabulous question which was asked of me. And I don't really have the answer, but I do know that when I'm reading flowers, I find that it's almost like I get a story told. So it's like reading the cards, and then I get a story told. So the cards help me see, and then the story comes out. Same with flowers. There is a slight difference when you're in Mother Nature, and it goes deeper. It goes deeper than what it would do if you're holding a flower and reading it. But holding a flower and reading it, by the way, isn't something that you just brush aside and think it's not. It can be the most amazing reading of your life. That's why I'm working on a book right now. They call it the Flower Bible, but we're not calling it the Flower Bible because I'm not religious. So I'm trying to find a better word, you know. But it's the ancient art of flower reading. So one of the stories I'd like to share with you today, if you don't mind, is the story of the flower when I'd finished a long day's work and I went up to the mountain to contemplate, which I used to do many years ago. And I remember finding a place to sit. And as I sat down, I started meditating from the day's miracles that happened, miracles that can't really be explained in a room, that things were just so It was so profound that I had to go and absorb it. I had to go and try and understand it. Why was this happening? Which most people don't. But that was my job, because if I could find out the connection and why that happened, it would make me a better seer, and it would help me to be a better guide. And it's just, I guess, my training. And my training was equally as much sitting in contemplation than one-to-one experience through readings and healings. So as I was sat there, I was doing my breathing and I was thinking about the day, but something came into my space, and it was a sound, and I could hear it in the distance. And as I heard that sound, my eyes all of a sudden caught on a flower. So it's a wild flower of the Mias Mountain, and it was a beautiful flower. And I'm looking at it. It was just beautiful. Why did I look at it? Because it's just there, and I was meant to be meditating. But for some reason, I was drawn or pulled towards the flower at the same time as I'm hearing this noise, which I'm realizing now is either a wasp or a bee or a fly. Wasn't sure what it was, but I could hear it, and it was bzz, 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 bzz. And then I thought, oh, that's a bee. That sounds like a big bee, and it sounds like it's going from place to place. It's going from one flower to another. And I'm contemplating that. I'm looking at this flower, and this flower it was beautiful, but it looked a bit droopy. It looked dry. It didn't look vibrant. It looked lovely, but it wasn't, it looked like it needed a drink. But what I noticed in the moment, I went into some kind of alpha mode, or, some mode where things slowed down. And as I'm looking at the flower, I'm starting to see the flower is starting to react to the sound of the bee. And if I was to say that, the feeling I got from the flower was, I know it sounds stupid, but it started to dance almost. And by way of, like a belly dancer wanting you to look at them, it was like it was moving, and it wasn't windy, but everything was slowing down and it was moving. And I'm like, nah, that can't be right. Bzz, 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 bzz. Now this noise is getting closer. The bee's getting closer. And I have no idea, but I'm fixated on this flower now. And I'm like, that flower's getting taller. That flower is now from like here to like moving, and it's like that flower's getting taller. And then what blew me away was I started smelling the scent of a flower, and I was really deep in this meditation state. And now I've got this sense that I can smell, my senses of smell for this flower, and I could smell the flower. So now the flower is dancing, it's getting taller, it's giving off scent, it's now vibrating. Vibrating. I'm like the belly dancer, and then stops, and then I'm like, this is the weirdest thing. And then its color changed from a dull to like a vibrant. Now in my mind, I'm thinking I'm going crazy here. But then I realized I wasn't, because the sound of the bee kept getting closer and closer and closer, till a point where the bee came, and it's almost like they kissed each other. They did what they needed to do. The bee went off, and the flower just went back down again. So I was like, that was mad. That was just crazy. And I remember coming home. It's very difficult for you to say anything to anybody because they think you're crazy. But I did write it down in my book. I wrote it down in my book, and I thought one day I'm going to tell people about this. And I know it sounds crazy. And maybe in the future, in Jesus Christ, in 50 years from now, we're going to like get this, I don't know, scientific evidence that we can hear flowers sing, because I did post something today which was really beautiful. Somebody sent it to me, and it was of crickets, and somebody had recorded the sound of crickets and lowered the sound, and it sounded like it was just angelic. It sounded angelic. And so maybe one day there's going to be somebody or some scientists that come up and say, yeah, there is some interaction between the flower and the bee, and there's some kind of partnership going on here, and you can visibly hear it or see it, and maybe one day that'll be. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't care if they do or they don't, and I don't care what people think about me. I couldn't give a shit anymore. But that was my truth, and I wrote it down in the book here. I wrote it in this book. I wrote it in this book because I knew one day that it would make a difference in somebody's life. I think it's the day I became a flower, it was called. Yes, it's page 43, I think. Yeah, the day I became a flower, page 43. Lovely story, lovely story. Obviously back then, like now, I'm trying to recall things. I've not got the memory as I used to have, but I do recall from that moment, my life changed with regards to trees and flowers and the respect I have. So one of the things about the Flower Bible at the very end is something that I needed to finish off on, and it was about this pull and tug, this double-edged sword of being a flower reader and asking people to bring flowers, and knowing that the flower is going to, the flower's spirit will leave. And there is an argument that, that flower served its purpose, and that flower then goes into a hand and brings love and joy to a mother, or even a daughter or a husband that may have lost their child, or a wedding or something. So maybe the purpose of the flower is each individual to its own as a soul. So I try not to beat myself up over that these days. If the possibility that you can read for somebody with a flower being in nature, then obviously that to me is the most perfect thing. But I don't beat myself up over a flower being bought from a florist. So there you go. I just wanted to share that with you. There's something very, very deep about the spirit of Mother Nature, and Mother Nature is, for me, the Mother Nature is the soil. That's Mother Nature to me. And every soul that comes into this world can choose to come as whatever it chooses to come. So you could be a tree, you could be a flower, you could be an ant, you could be a cat, you could be a calf, you could be a human, whatever choice that you feel you make. And the reason why I say that is because I've had animals all my life, and nobody can tell me that an animal doesn't feel pain. and doesn't feel depressed and doesn't feel sad and doesn't have jealousy and doesn't get angry. And some animals are so evil, they just want to kill everything. That's the same as some human beings that come into these spacesuits. So my belief when we just look at it as a singular level of, oh, right, we're all human beings, we're all the same. No, we're not. Oh, they're all trees, they're all beautiful. They're all animals, they're all beautiful. No, they're not. Not all of them. Some animals are really horrible. And you could argue it was because it was mistreated. I know a lot of animals which were mistreated and never hurt another animal and just was very sensitive. And I've met a lot of animals because I used to be an animal healer. I've met horses, and horses are beautiful, but you know what? Some horses, if they don't like you, they don't like you, and it takes a long time to even get that bond. And some of them are damn right awful to you, and they'll bite you, and they'll enjoy it. Like I said, my point being is that everything that's living on this earth has, I believe, a soul, has consciousness of sorts. And I think that depending on the spacesuit, depending on the flower, depending on the animal, whatever you go into as a body or a plant or an animal, your body, your consciousness is limited to what you decide to go into. So your experience will be different. So if you're a tree, your consciousness will be the tree, and the tree just stays there. It receives water. It grows. It blows in the wind. It gets attacked by creatures. It gets sick and it can die. It can get cut down and killed. So the point being is the consciousness of the tree can only do so much. It can't get up and walk around, but it can communicate to all the other trees through its mother Earth, and connects underground and speaks and looks after and helps and heals other trees when they're dying, and they keep them alive as well. They look after them. They speak to each other and say, there's an infestation, we need to produce this. And so you know, when I say limited, I'm talking about conversation, our voice, and building things. You're limited to the tree, if you see what I mean. And there is no time and space. So, you think there's a tree that's 1,000 years old. It could very easily be that the tree is 1,000 years old with wisdom. And I remember going to Ireland, meeting a very interesting guy. I can't remember his name, but Arthur, who took me there, said, I want you to meet this very interesting man. And he was in his 90s, I think, and he used to be a carver, but very spiritual man. And he was very. He went upstairs as he came downstairs, and we were going to have a look at this tree. And as he came downstairs, he says, "Why?" Right? And I said, "Why what?" He said, "No, I'm talking to my wife." And I'm like, I'm sure he said his wife died 20 years ago, and it was. He literally was talking to his wife, and his wife was in the room. And she said, go and change your jacket. It's not the right jacket. And he literally turned back round, went upstairs, come back down. And I said, were you talking to your wife? He says, yeah, of course I was talking to my wife. Well, what's wrong with you, Mark? I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with you? Of course he was. We've been programmed and brainwashed to believe that you can't do that, but you can. And I talk to my mum all the time. But the fact that he went upstairs and changed his jacket and came back down, it wasn't a game. He wasn't trying it on. He wasn't winding me up. It was just genuine. Anyway, like we were talking about, we went out and we were talking about this tree, and I said something, and he says, Mark, he said, you know how old this tree is? And I said, well, 300 years, 700 years old, this tree. He said, do you think this tree is dumb? Do you think it's stupid? It has more knowledge. It has heard more stories. It knows it has more wisdom than you could ever imagine. You just need to tap into it. the guy just blew me away, and it just opened my eyes to the possibility that we just think a tree is a tree, or a flower is a flower, or a cat is a cat, or a dog is a dog. And there's so much more because of our egos and because of our programming from schools and teachers and our parents. But there's a whole other world out there. Same with, sea life. There's a whole other world out there. And because of the internet, and because there is some good things that come out of the internet, we can clearly see that when an animal gets rescued by a human being, that animal feels it and it holds great gratitude. And more often than not, the animal will thank them. And sometimes, very rarely, the animal will hold that as a divine, wonderful thing, and always show love and gratitude and come back. So we've seen it on, I think some of them are fake, but I do believe wholeheartedly that animals do, whether they come back or not, they are very thankful. So the whole point about, I guess, this story today is this understanding of spirit and the signs, the connection to everything. And we are connected to Mother Earth as we walk. And if we realized how powerful that is and how in tune we are, there's been many people try to show us this, by way of trees on TV. They have to put it out there. One of them is the avatar, right? So the tree where you connect, that's all truth. And by the way, I had a friend who wrote a book, it wasn't called The Avatar, but everything that was in the film, my friend wrote, her and a friend, it was stolen. And I think a lot of books are stolen. I think a lot of films are stolen. Doesn't take much to change a story slightly, and then you can say it's yours. I even believe there was a mention a while ago, was it The Matrix? Somebody mentioned that was stolen as well. There is the possibility that we all attune to the same energy at the same time. So there's a kind of like above us, there's an energy that we can pull. And once you have a thought, is it your thought? Because that's the question. Is it yours, or have you attuned to that thought because you've been given it? Could it be that that thought has been given to many people around the world because the spirit world wants us to know, wants us to progress, wants us to, expand and to see what's going on in the world, and they're trying to help us by way of giving people this divine source of information. So maybe there is a bitterness in there that if you've written a book because you've thought it's come from your creativity, your creative mind, but could it have been, these are the thoughts I just have from day to day, by the way. It's like, could it be that you attuned to the energy that was given to you from, I believe, source, the spirit world, because they're trying to elevate us for us to see the signs. So as I write down certain things and put out angel cards or messages in books, could it be the same thing? Could I have just picked up? And I do believe that. That's why I don't believe it's my. I don't look at it as if it's my book and it's my stories. I just believe it's stories for everybody to help them along their journey. So that's how I see it. But going back to the idea of everything can be a sign from every soul that lives on this planet. And I mentioned it on Sheep Farm that there's many a time you could be sat with somebody and they can just say something and like, what did you just say then? I don't know. I just said it. I don't know why I said it. Like, I needed to hear that. And it can be so profound. It could be only 3 words. Just could be 1 word. It could be a sentence. And I understand this as being spirit's intervention. And the reason why I call it spirit's intervention is because there are times that we need a message that spirit intervenes where we could have done something to ourselves or we could have done something to somebody else. And the fact that our consciousness isn't connected to our brain because of suffering and pain or illness, that we do things that we wish we hadn't have done, and we wish we'd have listened, right? And we don't. So sometimes spirit intervenes and helps us and brings that connection back by way of coming into our energy and helping us at that very moment that we could have done something that we shouldn't have done. Now, it doesn't always work that way. It doesn't always work that way. Sometimes does, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on the person. It depends on the person who's going through the suffering. It depends on the person who's giving the message. I'll give you a great example. As a healer, we get the room ready because the room's energy has to be at the highest level for spirit to come into the room. So that's how I say it. That's my foundation. So it might not be. They can come in, but the higher the energy, the stronger the frequency they have. So the more divine energy, the more healing energy they have. And if I'm healed and I'm feeling well and strong, and the energy is right in this room because I've cleansed it, then there's a beautiful interaction between the human and spirit world that can come into us together and give a healing session. And afterwards, we have received the download, and then we can share that download with our clients, and our clients can be crying, saying, how did you know that? How did that happen? It's like, and you get this other side of this beautiful conversation that I'm having where people are thinking, oh, that's devil work. That's devil work. I've done this for 20 years. I've never known anybody walk out of the room and felt any form of darkness, any form of fear. And if they did, I wouldn't do the work. You think I'd sit there in front of somebody and they get up and they say, you're evil, or, you're working with the devil. Do you think I would have continued? The only thing I ever got was, people in tears. People have healed. People have gone away and changed their life. People have gone away and met a partner or healed their relationship or healed whatever it is in their body because of the guidance that was given through me as a channel. I am not the message. I'm just the messenger. And when somebody is healed, it's because they came because they were ready to heal themselves. So I don't have ego. I've never thought that I've healed anybody, but I do believe that with the help of my mum who came through, she always used to come through. And so did Shirley when she passed. She came to help. So did Brian. So there were many people who came to help. But then I always found that, the grandma, the mum, the sister, the child would come through. And it's beautiful. So that's my take on it. So to summarize the idea of the synchronicities, the signs, all those things that guide us daily, most of us, 90% of the time, are not in that place mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. We're not in the place to feel that guidance, to hear it. Sometimes we are because it's a little bit more powerful and because spirit's intervening, and there are slight moments of intervention which can happen very quickly. It's like a kick up the arse. And then there's sometimes which are so profound, it's like a thunderbolt and lightning strike. And sometimes it can be a constant, every 10 or 15, 20 minutes, it can be a little thing, boom, 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 and you don't know why. I'll give you a great example. I was at a show doing my work, and there were 400, 500 stands. And there was this girl who, just came for, I think she came for a reading, and it was just weird because she left. I never thought anything about it till I got home. And I got home and I lived in the village here, and I kept seeing this girl, and I kept seeing a bunch of roses. Or was it? I can't remember whether it was white roses or red roses with a white rose in the middle. It was just weird, and I kept seeing it. And through the night, I kept seeing it, and it kept flashing in my eye all the time. And I kept seeing this girl that I read for. So in the morning, I was doing what I was doing, and then for some reason it was Saturday morning. Oh yeah, it was Saturday morning. It's the only morning in the village where you can buy flowers Saturday morning. So I sees these flowers which looks similar, and I said, "Can I buy them flowers? And can you put one flower in the middle?" And she, yeah, sure. And I'm walking with it, and I'm thinking, how am I going to explain this to my wife at the time, right? I have to figure out how to explain to her that I've just bought some roses for a woman that I'm going to gift, right? So I figure that out later, because everybody saw me with these flowers saying, "Oh, Marco, que bien," meaning what a lovely husband. So I'm like still scratching my head thinking, am I doing the right thing? What have I just done? Right. And I get to the show and I've got these flowers in my hand, and I go to my stand, and then as I'm holding them, I just walk around the corner thinking, this girl, she's got to be here somewhere, because I didn't know anything. I wasn't sure. Like, and then I saw her. So I start walking up to her with these flowers, and then she starts crying her eyes out. And I said, these are from your mum. And her mum had died in the spirit world. And she said, it's my birthday today. And I said, oh, okay, so I don't need to explain anymore. She says, no, thank you. And, you know, how many people would have been guided to do that? I ask you this question now. Would you have done that? One, it could be like, I can't frigging afford. Two, I'll never even see her again. Three, what's everybody going to think? You're buying flowers for another woman. I wrote that in a book, I think, in the first book. I think I wrote it in my first book, True Story. And so as a healer, I don't know, I can't speak for other healers, but for me, as a healer, I followed the guidance and the intuition. And I was on Sheep Farm the other night. You can watch it, and I explain that. You know, I know I come across sometimes crude and a bit thick, but I meant it by saying, what do you do with your signs? See what I do with the signs. You see the difference between what you might do with the signs and what I do with the signs. You might say, Mark, I follow my signs. I know exactly what you're saying, and I follow them. Some people say, I don't even know what to do with them. Well, I didn't know what to do with them, but I followed them. I followed the instinct that I got, the feeling that I should do something, and I just do it. And I do it every day. I haven't put some oil in my bag for ages. I mean, I'm not kidding. Must be about 3 or 4 weeks. And for some reason, I put some bottles in my bag last week. And I just don't put them in there. But I did, and I don't know why, but I put them in. I didn't even think about it. I just put them in. And I went down to Banana Kitchen, where I sometimes have my breakfast. And Michael, who lives local, he's a Yorkshire lad. He's a total non-believer about anything what I do. In fact, we've fallen out a few times about stuff, but it's okay. Everybody falls out with me about what I do anyway. But I'm not going to fall out with you and hate you for it. I'm still going to try and be your friend. So, hey, Michael, how are you doing, Mark? I'm doing all right, thanks. How are you doing? Not so good, he says. I says, oh dear, what's up? He says, oh, I've got a bit of problem. I can't remember what he said, but I'm like, okay. So I go into my bag and I said, here. I said, rub it on every 2 hours and it'll be gone in a couple of days. And he sent me a message. The day after, right? And I don't have it. Anyway, I'm not winding you up. I'm telling you the truth, right? He sent me a message and he says, I'm telling you this. You know I don't believe in any of this stuff, right? Right? I rubbed it on and the pain had gone. And he said, I went for a 10-mile run. So the point being, you could say, and I think most of you would, you'd say that's just coincidence, right? And you just brush it off. Whereas I know 100% that I followed what I needed to do, and I knew it would be ready. So that goes with crystals and incense. So if I ever feel the need to gift something or to carry something or to wear something, I know at times I'm ready for the sign. So I become the channel all the time towards helping those that need help. So when spirit comes to you and asks you to help somebody, they bring somebody to you. So the next time somebody comes to you and just says hello or sits down with you, just try and change your thought patterns, and realize that we don't connect with somebody by chance, and it's not by accident. There's a reason why we connect, and most of the time we don't want to even speak to the person. And if we did, we'd realize that we've got more in common, and we probably know somebody that they know, and there's a bond somewhere there. And I remember whenever I say this, there's always this thought of this guy who wrote a book. And in his book, he attempts to argue that there are millions and billions of people in the world, whatever you believe, but anybody who passes you by and looks in your eye has a message for you, and there is a reason why you two have caught each other's eye. And the fact that we just don't even acknowledge that at all. In fact, we run away and we turn away. We don't want to speak to anybody or acknowledge anybody. We are actually part of the very decay of the world. And sometimes it's not our fault. Sometimes it's enhanced by monsters and evil acts. But in a beautiful world, when we see somebody on the street and we catch eyes to them, I do believe that there is something very sacred about that, and we've lost that now. And it's almost like the devil's laughing at us. So, you think how many millions and millions of people in this world, you'll never ever see them and you'll never know them. So then when you do meet a stranger and you look at each other, if you next time think that there's something very special about it, you might know them in a past life. There might be something that they've got for you. There's something that you've got for them. Then it becomes more sacred, your life and your respect for others. It's just a food for thought. So there you go. All right, who's in the chat room? Hiya, Sam. How you doing? Trauma is the teacher. Certainly one of them, because, and it's sad really, Sam, to be fair, it's really sad that we have to say that, right? Why is it that trauma is the teacher? Why can't it be joy, laughter, fun? Because we brush it off and we just don't even value it. But trauma, oh yeah, I remember that, freaking hurt. What about the time that you met somebody and they made you laugh and they were joyful? Weren't they a teacher? So we kind of have everything inverted, wrong way around, back to front. That's my opinion, and we're all the same. I'm not saying you, I'm saying all of us. It's very true. Yeah, there's been times that I've been at a show and I know who's going to come next. I used to do it as well as just a psychic experiment. My favorite. So there was a girl that I used to read for. She had a Kundalini attack, and she was one of many clients who used to hear the spirit world very loud. I don't call it Kundalini awakening. but she did. But she was now fully connected to the spirit world, and she used to have conversations with them, and I found her fascinating. She was a beautiful soul. Nothing sexual at all, because I was very happily married, but we got on well, and I was very interested in what she was connecting to, who she was talking to. She was put in she was sectioned by her mum and dad. And then that didn't work for 2 years. So she came out, and then she found me, or I found her, or spirit brought us together. So that was lovely. And it was great. She started enjoying the fact that she had this gift instead of fearing it and being told that there was something wrong with her. So now we could get on, and we chatted. And I asked her one day, I said, would you do me a favor? Would you work with me for 2 days? And she lived in Marbella, and she said, of course I would, Mark. And I'm like, thank you. So we're doing the Mind, Body and Spirit Festival. I've got my my stand. I just love doing it. And she would stand at the front and say, okay, what would you like a reading with Mark? Yes. We can put you in at 3:30. He's got, and it was, this isn't a lie. The show started at 10 o'clock, and I'd be booked up for that day, because they couldn't book the next day. I wouldn't let them. It'd be booked up within 15 minutes, right? So I was disappointed standing there hoping to get a reading from me, but I couldn't, because I was booked up, because I was pretty good. But why I'm saying this is because my friend, right, I used to say to my friend after the session, right, don't ever ask for money. If they pay, they pay, right? If they don't, they don't. Okay, so don't ask for the money before or after, okay? So what normally happened is people came for a reading, then they get up and they just walk off. And the reason for that is because they're in a state of shock, in the sense of like what they've just had. It's, you don't know where you are or what's going on when you've had this beautiful experience. I don't know about other readers, but it happened to me, right? So I had a kind of joke going with Melanie, and I said, Melanie, 15 minutes. So she'd write 15 minutes down, and she'd write 1:30, right? And what that meant was the client got up, failed to pay, walked off, and I attuned that they'd come back in 15 minutes. And we did this through the day. And you can ask her, we just laughed all day long. And sometimes I was bang on, sometimes not always bang on. Sometimes they'd come back at the end of the day and say, oh my God, I can't believe I didn't pay. But that was a sign for me to say that you've done a good job. You've cleared that it's not about the money, it's gone, and they're not even thinking about it. They're in a world, they're in their own world of peace and joy, and they're experiencing, they're digesting, they're not thinking about paying money. So that was really lovely. I really enjoyed doing that. They were fun days. So yeah, it's been a pleasure. It's nearly an hour. I just wanted to give an hour of I called it a divine discussion, or a divine talk. Wasn't so divine, eh? But I wanted to share some of those thoughts with you through the years that I've experienced, and just to let you think a little bit more about the signs, make you ponder and think about next time that you meet somebody, make you think a little bit more about the start of this conversation about all the synchronicities and everything that we are and everything that we could be if we come back again. So treat animals well, treat flowers and fruits, and I can't even hit something with a stick anymore without feeling bad. You know, like I'm talking about a flower or something. I can't hit anything like a kid, like you used to do when you walk along, because I don't want to hurt it. And that's how we should be. So I'm wishing you all a lovely day. I send you all my love. And I think that's it. It's a joy. It's been a joy. Take care. Have a lovely day, everybody. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Till tomorrow. See you later. Bye for now.